Howdy, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5. There's a snake in my boot.
And welcome to the most rudenest, tootinest, rough and tumble podcast in all the West. Our long-awaited Toy Story 2 Retrospective podcast. And Dragon, we're doing this for an occasion. Not just any occasion. Not just any holiday. Not just Thanksgiving. No. We're doing it for Hanksgiving.
Hanksgiving. Yes.
Dragon, I think that Hanksgiving is just like going to be a new holiday that you and I celebrate, and I feel like it's going to be more relevant than the actual Thanksgiving is in our hearts, at least.
Well, we have a heck of a way to usher in this year. I'll say that much.
Oh yeah. So this year's going to be a double dose of Thanksgiving, folks. First, we're going to start with classic. We're going to start with something that's actually celebrating its 20th anniversary this month. Toy Story 2, long-awaited retrospective. The first Toy Story podcast gave us the Look a Peach meme. That's a long-running joke on this channel. So I wonder if anything as iconic as that is going to come out of this conversation, Dragon. The bar is... Because that was one of our more memorable retrospective podcasts, was the original Toy Story.
Yeah, but again, the whole Look a Peach thing, we don't bring up that often. I don't want
to... maybe it's something when I'm hanging out with Monkey and Garrett in the parks, we bring it up a lot, I think. That's more of like a friend in-joke kind of thing now. But, all right. And then tomorrow night, folks, on Thanksgiving Eve, we are going to talk about A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Dragon, I want you to just because it's really amusing, I want you to set the stage. I want you to set the stage on my experience with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, from me telling you my expectations to, I just want you to weave the narrative.
Oh, essentially, my associate here, So I had seen the movie. Here's the thing. Going into the movie, I was hyped for it, and Tiki was initially very hyped for it, but then it kind of died down. I was like, I don't know. It's probably going to get into the usual biopic territory we've kind of seen done to death before. And basically that paranoia that kind of lack of that lack of hype going into kind of permeated my friend's soul. And then I've seen the movie since, and like a day or so before he had seen it, he's the one saying, like, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get excited. It's probably just going to be the same old. Basically, still with that mindset. And I was thinking to myself, poor deluded fool. The arrogance of youth. The poor deluded fool.
The arrogance of youth.
He doesn't know the poor, because he's basically going over things that I for a fact know. Oh man, that was some of the best parts of the movie. All the stuff that
it's just going to be a really basic plot structure. They're not going to do anything cool with the framing device at all.
It's going to be like paint by numbers. And I was like, oh man, the kid doesn't get it. The kid's just so stupid. He doesn't get it. Like, I want to tell him, but I can't clip his wings. I gotta let Icarus fly the sun so he lands all the way down to the cooling, fresh sailboat water.
Oh man! So yeah, Dragon. When I was watching the movie, I gotta tell you, that was a fun kind of like meta experience I was having. Is just like, as it went on, just realizing like, oh man, Dragon must have been just like so amused by my earlier statements.
Because basically, he wouldn't think we were going to have enough for a podcast with all that.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh yeah. He's like, because I'm thinking, like, obviously we're going to want to do it, because also we did the documentaries. So of course we got to do the Day in the Neighborhood. And he's like, I don't know. We'll see if I have anything to say. Might just work in the memoirs. I'm thinking, oh, you deluded fool. Anyway.
So yeah, suffice to say, we will be breaking that down. Folks, it is a true story, but I think maybe it would be fair to label that one as a spoiler cast, just because we're going to be getting into a lot of the structure and some of the surprises that the movie has along the way.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So back to Toy Story, Dragon. I'm just going to give you the lead here, because I know this is obviously a very special movie to you. So what is your thesis?
All right, so I adore Toy Story 2. This was my this was my first Pixar film in theaters. Like, even though I always remember this. This is always going to be built in my DNA whenever I think of Toy Story 2. It's always like the best memory ever because even though it came out in November, again, hence the whole 20th anniversary of it all, came out in 1999, November, essentially when Thanksgiving should be, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. My point is, came out in November, yet to me and in my heart of hearts, it was a summer blockbuster for me. And it still every time I watch it feels like a summer blockbuster, even though it feels like it was a movie released during the summer. It feels very summery. It takes place during August, and I'm sure that helps. But you see my point.
Yeah.
So you nostalgically attached this. I mean, I know the Toy Story movies like the back of my hand, especially the first two, though. I mean, the first one, but I could even argue maybe I know the second one better because that in theater experience. But again, it's basically you have the home video of Toy Story 1, which you're gonna probably watch that tape to the point where it's like one more watch away from just like you being like spaghetti in a VCR somewhere. or again, just like that in theater experience of Toy Story 2. It's all just simply fantastic. It's so. Let me frame my thesis like this. Of course, in seeing Toy Story 2 I didn't even need to see it honestly, but it's on Disney Plus. Might as well. You know what? It's literally at my fingertips. I'll give it another watch. I don't even need to, but I could. So rarely do you have a film that truly is good as or better than the original? We always toss it around, and it's always like, is it better than the first one? It's always that question. But seriously, this is one of the rare occasions where there's an argument to be made. There's a very valid argument to be made where it is good as and or better than the original. Not a dip in quality in the Toy Story franchise, and some people, again, especially nowadays, some people have hoisted certain movies up with the whole Godfather Part 2, or the way Mike Coulter says it, Godfather Part 2. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Anyway, some people lately have been thrown away with sequels, have thrown out the whole, is it Godfather Part 2 for this movie? Is something the Godfather Part 2 of animation with certain sequels? And I got to be honest, this is the closest you're ever going to get to a Godfather Part 2 in animation. I'll say that much. You'd be hard pressed to find a sequel that, again, good as or better than the original, or maybe will even strengthen the original in watching it. This is the film that elevated the themes of Toy Story, expanded the notion of a toy's love for a child and their purpose, to that of a parent. Basically, this is where they kind of crack the code. Like, okay, so the through line that we a toy wants to be played with by the kid, and what if we expand that theme to, what if a toy watching a kid, being there for a kid as the years go on, is like a parent kind of dealing with emptiness syndrome? They unlock the universal key that would get both parents and children into the same movie, create the ultimate kind of viewing experience for for a story. And plus it got even funnier and kind of bigger in scope in certain regards, to explore all sorts of areas and degrees of this film. It's just I can't say enough nice things about the movie. I had nostalgia coming out of me. I remember the tie-in Game Boy game. I remember like the whole Buzz Lightyear. Basically, it was from Buzz's perspective. The whole movie, you're tracking down Woody, you're trying to save him. It's I got that. I got all like the games I can't find anymore. It used to be on the computer. I got nostalgic. One last thing. I even had these things. I put them in a binder. I can never find the binder, but I'm sure. I hope it's around somewhere. I had like these little like mini lithograph kind of trading cards, almost not trading cards. Like there's like these mini lithographs from the movies. I remember getting them when they came out. I was so into this movie, man. It's like probably the most nostalgic I'm ever going to be tied to a Pixar movie, quite possibly.
Nice. Okay. Dragon, I honestly don't know how this happened in my youth. It's like a blank spot. But I didn't even know about Toy Story 2 until months later when, of all things, Dragon, it all ties back to this, man. It all ties back to this. At a fucking Scholastic book fair, I kid you not. I kid you not. I saw the novelization of Toy Story 2 and I was like, oh, how quaint. They wrote a book that's a sequel to a Toy Story movie. And then my friend was like, no, man, they actually made a Toy Story 2. It's like, I'm like, okay, well, it's probably like a Return of Jafar, right? Like, it's not, no, it came out in theaters and everything. I was like, how did I miss this? Dragon, I to this day, I have no idea how it just slipped my radar, because I was a huge fan of the original Toy Story. I saw it in theaters. I do have some childhood trauma associated the time I saw it in theaters, but I don't hold it against the movie. I love the movie with all my heart. And it is just, in spite of the, in spite of some parts being so intense that I needed to walk out, it was still, I'm still glad I saw it in theaters. I'm still glad I got the experience of seeing that movie in particular in theaters. But oddly enough, Dragon, because the first time I watched this was after it had already kind of came and went from theaters, I got to admit, I'm almost kind of like the opposite of you when it comes to like I love both of them, but man, I live and breathe the first movie, and I know you do too. I'm not trying to say you don't, but it's just there's always like, this is the one that I've kind of returned to the least out of all the Toy Story movies, just because it was the one that I have the least nostalgic ties to. For some reason, I just kind of like rented it a couple times. I watched it. I liked it. I watched it maybe on ABC a couple times over the years. I liked it then. But I don't know, Dragon, for some reason, this is a film that's like, I have absolutely nothing poor to say about it at all. It just, for some reason, it didn't really stick with me as much as the other Toy Stories did. And of course, Toy Story 1 being the big innovative, like, oh my God, CG animation. Toy Story 3, of course, being a huge benchmark of, like, we're aging right alongside with Andy. I was going off to college right when that movie came out. And of course, I have as much of an emotional attachment to that movie as any 90s kid does. Toy Story 4, it's, obviously that movie's kind of in its infancy. So, like I said, it wasn't for a lack of respect towards Toy Story 2 at all. It just happened to be the one that I kind of had the least ties to. But I gotta say, Dragon, going back to this movie, man, it's a quality work. I tell you what, I mean, like, you are not wrong when you say that the Toy Story movies never dipped at all. I mean, this is definitely as good, if not better, than the original. I don't know. Dragon, I still, in the original trilogy, I have to still call it like maybe the third best, just because the original was such a trendsetter and the third just stuck to landing so much. So this is kind of like the second chapter of the sequel of the trilogy, where it's less about its own individual plot, and it's more about kind of like introducing a lot of characters and concepts and building the world. And it does have a good individual plot, but I feel like the plot of Toy Story 3 kind of takes things to the next level, where this is just like, okay, now it's Woody's in peril and Buzz has to go rescue him. Kind of a role reversal sequel. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying Toy Story 3 just really, really kicked things up a notch with the plot. But this, I mean, it's definitely solid. The animation, I was definitely struck by how well the animation in this holds up. It holds up, frankly, as much as I like the first one, it holds up a lot better than the first one does. And I think that all the characters are really well represented. I love Rex's little arc with Zurg. And
my source of power.
Just overall, I'm very impressed with this movie, for sure. And it's just, me calling it the third best in the Toy Story franchise is not a slap on this movie. It's a compliment to how goddamn consistent these movies are. All right.
Again, as much as I love, I'm gonna of course quote Claude Coringa in the comments here. Claude Coringa. Coringa, he says very well, Toy Story is one of the best animated movie franchises ever.
I mean, I would dare to say, as much as I like How to Train Your Dragons, it is definitively the best.
Well, of course, want to be a little humble about it, but yeah, certainly, come on, it's got to be the best. What question is there? I mean, again, that's the thing. Unfortunately,
because I am not seeing Claude Coringa's comment for some reason.
Anyway, well, that's the funny thing, though. Again, the only annoying thing with the Toy Story franchise that now you have to refer to it as a franchise, because when you say trilogy now, we're a little outdated. But thankfully, again, still quality. Still quality. Oh my goodness! I could rewatch the opening of Toy Story for all the live long day. That alone would still be satisfying.
Hang on, RC.
Good God, that opening. Oh God. Anyway, so my point is, like, I'm in love with the franchise, but buddy, you're in good company. We're all in the love boat here, anyway. So, of course,
I see it now. I don't know why it took me that long for it to pop up for me.
I mean, easily for me, the original Toy Story, yeah, it's going to be my favorite. That's still my favorite Pixar movie. No matter what Marvels they do, it's always going to probably be my favorite Pixar movie. And speaking of which, one of my favorite stories in all
I
in all
was
of
a
cinema.
hipster who listed Coco as my favorite Pixar movie.
Fair enough.
I still stand by that.
It's a good movie. Hey, I'm not fighting you. I'm just saying that's just me. Okay, that's just.
I
me.
think that's. I think as much as Toy Story is like the the one that started it all. I think that Coco is kind of like the height of their powers.
Regardless, the point being, we're in good shape with animated Pixar movies. That's the important takeaway here. Regardless, what we get is, so of course in the tomes of cinema, my two favorite making of stories are the original Toy Story and the making of the Richard Donner Superman movie. To me, those are the two best making of stories in all of cinema. I gotta tell you, though,
I'm partial to Jaws and Return of the Jedi myself.
Those are very good, especially Jaws. Making of Jaws that's one for the
Return of the Jedi. I'm just partial to for nostalgia reasons because I saw the From Star Wars to Jedi VHS as a kid, and yeah, that lit something in me from a filmmaking level. Anyways,
well, fair enough. I'm just kind of going for my segue here. My segue is
I'm sorry.
The original Toy Story, again, has a really great behind-the-scenes story, and 2 also has a very interesting behind-the-scenes story. Okay, so let's go through a little bit of background, man. The backstory, the Toy Story. So, of course, Pixar from the get-go has always been the philosophy on sequels, and we only want to do a sequel that's it's kind of necessitated, or sort of when we actually have a story that's worth telling, we're going to come back for, which is why 4 was not kind of the shot in the gut people were expecting, oh god, what are they thinking? Oh no, they actually had a plan. This is awesome. Yes, thank goodness. Lucky star. Yes, awesome.
And Incredibles 2 also exists,
which was necessity. People wanted Incredibles 2, and they got it. It was great. Depending on, anyway. Regardless, so of course that's the point. That's been kind of like the philosophy on sequels, and this is kind of the beginning of that philosophy. The infancy is okay. Well, Toy Story did very well. They want us to do a sequel, and I mean we can come up with a good story in mind, and they did. So as this is happening, the genesis of Toy Story 2 is John Lasseter was getting on a plane, and he witnessed a boy. This is probably a year or so after Toy Story, even kind of outside Toy Story, after the Christmas rush of the Toy Story. I believe the original came out in November as well. There's a boy holding a Sheriff Woody doll, and he showed it to his father. And this was kind of a little light bulb moment for John Lasseter. He cracked the emotional code here of, you know what? There's an emotional connect. There's an emotional component for the story of the sequel. It's it's about how the toys they've grown bigger than just what we kind of played with in the first movie. These guys are making an emotional connection. It's again the whole parent-child angle. It all became clear in that little moment at an airport, oddly enough. So again, all relative. So again, this is pre-Pixar when we have the films. Again, this is really in Pixar's infancy. It's 1999. Toy Story gets off the ground 95. So we have this, we have Bug's Life, and then we have Toy Story 2. That's kind of what the setup was. So this is when they're kind of playing it by ear. They have a number of ideas they came up with during the big famous kind of cafe, the big cafe kind of sit down, the big kind of brainstorming session with the Pixar Brain Trust. There's kind of spitballing some ideas for movies. So they have a few ideas in the camp, but they're saying, well, let's see how Toy Story does, and if we could do many more, we could do these. So with that in mind, production time is very pivotal in the story of Toy Story 2. So they're in the midst of A Bug's Life. And they said there's maybe some plans to do Monsters Inc. and Nemo at this point, but this is as far as they've really planned it out at this point. There's no film this year, then the following year, then 2 after that.
There's
then
no
a year
10-year slate.
That's what I'm saying. It's way before a film slate really exists, where they kind of playing it by ear, and it's well, maybe Pete Docter could do this movie, and then Andrew could do that movie.
Peter Jackson for that slate, by the way. Just saying, from a historical point of view.
Hey, that's good. So Jeffrey Katzenberg, of course, who was kind of the bane of Toy Story. Again, he greenlit it, but by the same token, he almost ruined it. Jeffrey Katzenberg, he's out of there at this point. So they bring in Joe Roth. And Joe Roth's big claim to fame, if I'm remembering correctly, he was the direct-to-video sequel guy. That was Joe Roth's big claim to power. So oddly enough, it's so fitting you brought up Return of Jafar, because that was very much on their minds at this point in time.
Right. And that's the thing, Dragon. When I first learned that Toy Story 2 was a thing, I honestly was like, nah, it's too good to be true. It has to be a Return of Jafar knockoff type deal. They couldn't have just made a full Toy Story 2.
Now,
Anyways.
I feel with Joe Roth, it was less of like a Katzenberg, I want things my way. I think it was more of like, well, hey, the direct-to-video sequels are doing really well right now, and originally Toy Story 2 was supposed to be a direct-to-video sequel. And
Uh-huh.
again, this is Pixar in their infancy. They're just kind of trying things out. Say, hey, they're going to give us another bite at the apple. Let's do it. Okay, that's fine. Let's do a direct-to-video sequel. So now, and the important detail is that, so again, they're working on Bug's Life, and they're kind of getting ready to do some other movies. So as they're factoring everything out, again, people are busy, and there's also like press junkets and kind of like promotional tours, and again, finishing up your previous movie. So John Lasseter can't do Toy Story 2 initially, so he brings in Ash Brand, the co-director of Toy Story 2. So he's brought in to direct. They're using like a secondary crew. Do you remember the Toy Story CD-ROM from the first movie?
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
They did the animation for Toy Story 2.
Oh wow, okay.
I forget if they if they added to this. I assume they did, but they were the initial crew on Toys. Basically, they were kind of the second string crew that were doing like the promotional stuff for the first Toy Story, and they ended up doing the main animation for Toy Story 2. So basically things are getting off the ground again. The direct-to-video capacity. Disney makes the nightmare call. They made the phantasm call, Tiki. The call you kind of want, but by the same token, it's a worse nightmare call where it's like, hey guys, you're working on direct-to-video, let's make it theatrical.
Oh God.
Which again is like, yay, success, but by the same token, timetable. Oh God. Which led to kind of an honest examination of what the state of the story of Toy Story 2. So essentially, they bring in John Lasseter. He's checking in after kind of his promotional tour of Bug's Life, and he's checking in, and they're all basically slowly making the realization the story's not coming together. It's something. The movie's there, but the story just isn't quite right. So they tell Joe Roth, and it's basically, you guys, you do not have enough time to make this movie. As in, okay, so what you have now is good enough. As in, I think it's good enough. We'll put it in theaters, but to the perfectionists of Pixar, it's like the story's not there. We cannot release it. That's a crazy thing to say to an executive. We can't do it in this time. We have no time to fix it. So this is where a huge thing for Pixar happens, Tiki. The summit. This is the birth of the log cabin summit. So John Lasseter, Andrew Stanley, the original crew, Joe Ranft and Pete Docter, they all hunker down. They go to They go to a cabin essentially for the weekend. They have a little story summit where basically John Lasseter, he's kind of put in the position of directing. He's kind of co-directing now with Ash Brandon. Kind of taking the reins. They rework the story in a weekend. I want to make it clear: 2 days, roughly 3 days. They re-examine the whole movie. They make a whole bunch of things again, which is impossible. A lot of the animations. Some of the animation's done already. You have to rework the story. You're going to have to add stuff there. John Lasseter basically he pitches the whole story from start to finish to the animators, to the whole crew. He gives them his rousing pitch, like a patent speech, man. He gives them a rousing speech that inspired everybody to do something really crazy. That they had to rework half the movie based on a weekend of reworking the story. They had to add 15 minutes, which in animation is many years, but again, condensed to making a release date by roughly a year or so. And restructuring basically existing footages, and we have to change the setting of certain scenes, but it's like it's the Brad Bird philosophy. Let's use every part of the buffalo. It's the old reworked Native American saying, use every part of the buffalo. So this was by far I don't know if it's changed to this day, but famously this was the tightest knit production Pixar's ever had this time. If it were given another second, we might have a different movie. Because I mean, there was chaos at every turn, man. RM Star, RM Star, don't you?
No.
Essentially, someone typed in a wrong code that essentially deleted the movie, and they lucked out with some animator had all backed up on their computer, so they kind of saved the movie.
I heard about that. I just didn't know what RM Star meant.
Well, someone typed in the code RM Star followed by certain. It actually is an Easter egg in Toy Story 4. It's I'm on board with these. Point being, it's really neat. Anyway, point being, there's still a Point Richmond during all this. They reworked these. They had a lot of fun. They had a lot of trust in the animators, which kind of breeds basically gives birth to the H-Stream and Monsters. Saying all this comes from the tight knit production. I really bonded them together, brothers at arms, all that sort of stuff. 20 years to the day gives us Toy Story 2. Wonderful. Okay.
All right, so Dragon, what are your thoughts on the Forky shorts? Since Clegg Kringa asked.
Oh, so far so good. Bob Peterson's been directing and writing them. Definitely have a little bit of a style. I like the second one most so far. Forky ask, "What is a friend?" That's my favorite so far. Again, they're kind of in their infancy. I'm not crazy about recasting Mr. Pricklepants, but that's something that happens sometimes when they do like the kind of the non-theatrical shorts. They can't always get the actors, so it's like sometimes Andrew Stan will do the voice of Ham, but you don't notice. So anyway, all right.
All right. So Dragon, explain how we're gonna break this all down.
All right, folks, we're going to try to kind of cover the highlights because you've seen the movie, you know what happens. We're going to try to kind of give our thoughts and kind of the big sticking points. We're going to break it down by act. So you can act 1, 2, and 3, and kind of like hit the major kind of like talking points of it all.
We're gonna try our best not to like be all beat by beat on this thing. We're gonna try to be as conversational as we can.
Precisely. Okay, so let's get started. So, of course, one of the big things of Toy Story 2, the opening scene. We got to talk about it.
I mean, it sets the standard for Toy Story openings because, of course, with Toy Story 3, you have something that I would even say one-ups this, and Toy Story 4, they go with something maybe even more epic, but on an emotional level. But this is the big, it set the stage for like, all right, we got to have a big, epic opening for a Toy Story movie.
Oh yeah, of course, the Buzz Lightyear video game is spectacular. It allows Buzz. I just love the fact it allows Buzz to fly in all its glory. Like, of course, the big thing kind of kept Buzz down the first movie. He couldn't fly. We get to see what it would look like if Buzz Lightyear flew. And it's I geek out over this sequence all the time. It's just what they did is they reworked the first Toy Story was supposed to open with a Buzz Lightyear cartoon. Basically, it was Buzz Lightyear Star Command.
Oh no, really? Oh god.
It was, and essentially they scrapped that, and that's what I'm talking about. The whole tight-knit production. They reworked.
You know what? If we saw Zurg and Zurg was voiced by Wayne Knight, then I would just pretty much confirm that headcanon theory in my head.
Well, that's the thing, Tink. Again, so many ideas that made in Toy Story 2 were deleted ideas from the first one. They worked so much better in the sequel, man. They're fantastic. So they reworked the intro of Buzz Lightyear. And again, purely this sequence, I'm convinced, gives us Buzz Lightyear Star Command. Because this whole movie, again, by proxy of Zurg and Buzz, I'm just saying this opening is like, it made people lose their minds. Like, oh, God, this is what Buzz Lightyear looks like when he's in action, not kind of doing toy things. Like, oh, God, this is fantastic. We got to develop this. Of course, I mean the Randy Newman score for this movie is tremendous. It really is, and I love the Buzz Lightyear.
I dare to say iconic.
Basically, we get the Buzz Lightyear theme in this movie. We didn't have in the first one. This is like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And then when it basically Toy Story 4 brings back all the best themes from Toy Story 2. If you really look at it, and this is like all the Buzz Lightyear stuff is like, oh god, I geeked out so much and was in Toy Story 4, and this is the birthplace of it, folks. It's the grand Mecca. So and then of course the Pixar tradition of this begins the Pixar tradition of setting things up in the opening that will pay off in the climax.
Oh yeah.
Where of course, again, the whole video game thing, all the Zurg stuff is set up here with like the Zurg bots, it's like the Zurg vision, for example. We have the Empire vibe, of course, like the set piece, like when Buzz Lightyear's like being chased by the spikes. That's Luke going through the tunnels meeting Darth Vader. By the end of the thing, so there's some great sci-fi nods, like 2001, like little always jumping on little hover things. It's like the only logic loophole I ever had, and I've gotten over in later years, is that like, isn't it odd that the Buzz Lightyear video game, because we need it for the fake out, is that the game is modeled after the toy, but then again, so are most 80s cartoons when you really think about it. They're modeled after the toy. The characters look like
point. Let's break this down headcanon wise. Like, so the cartoon we know exists in the Toy Story universe because we've seen them interact with the VHS tape.
Yes.
I don't care what anyone says.
No, you're right.
With the VHS tape is canon.
You're right. There is a 2D Buzz Lightyear series. We've established that. Yes.
So yeah.
What I'm just saying is that clearly we have a still toy Buzz Lightyear when you think video game would be the organic Buzz Lightyear. You follow me, right?
No. I hear you. Yeah.
But again, I'm going to give you the Transformers logic, where again, like most things, the toy line probably started, and therefore, like some things are probably modeled more after the toy.
Oh, I like that idea.
That's my logic. Years later, when I was a kid, always like, well, not as a kid, I was a young adult. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it always kind of was a sticking point. But years later, it's like, you know what? So are all the other '80s cartoons. Who cares? Like all the other like toy line based cartoons. Why not? So it's an awesome, and of course the thing always strikes me, the awesome subversion at the end where Buzz Lightyear gets like atomized by Zurg, and it's like, what? It's just, imagine that as a kid, you're watching, have these Superman credits and everything. Buzz Lightyear's flying, like what is happening? I'm sold, and he gets blown up from the waist up. Oh my god! It's like, and of course, it's a video game the whole time.
Yeah, great stuff there.
Of course, our status quo. This is 8 months after the first Toy Story. You know, it ended at Christmas. It's in August, so 8 months later. You know, Buzz and Woody, they're running the room in the new house. Things are going well. I love how the stakes are deceptively simple at the start. Woody can't find his hat. That's the crisis that we're starting off the first Toy Story with.
Right. Yeah,
Woody's
that's one
lost
thing I
his hat.
noticed on the rewatch as well, is that the story kind of like creeps up on you.
Yeah, I love how we kind of continued where we left off at Toy Story. There's a Mrs. Potato Head. We see it with the status quo. It looks like, well, maybe not all dogs are unfriendlies like Spike. Maybe we meet Buster, who again a little bit of a fake out. We're like, oh god, I think the dog's gonna chew poor Woody's head off. Not the case. Everything's good. Man's best
Can I just
friend.
say, like, the dog animation, like it's not great compared to what they could do with animals nowadays in CG. But I'm just saying, like, it is a big step up from the first movie's dog animation.
It is, and again, they studied real. To give them credit where credit's due, they did study real motion of the. Again, it was the first time you had that in computer animation, so it was difficult. But you know, they've gotten better. Is the point? Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so but yeah, like all is all is well. I love how, if you notice, there's a gag where Andy hasn't trained the dog yet, where he's like, he's trying to teach him tricks, but Woody has taught him tricks. So Buster responds to Woody, but he won't respond to Andy. It's hysterical. Anyway, so let's talk about the big kind of inciting incident. Let's talk about the rip.
The inciting incident happens just because a kid has 5 minutes of spare time to play with his toys.
Yeah,
I love that. I love how simple that is.
It's 5 minutes changes so much.
Right.
So early on, I love how early on it is too. Like it's so early in the movie too.
And like you said, the movie kind of like lulls you into a false sense of security of like, oh, okay, he's gone away to cowboy camp. Woody found his hat. All's good.
Yeah. So Woody's arm rips before cowboy camp, which kind of leads to him not being played with, and importantly, and this just really hits me on a rewatch. He was shelved, and of course, the shelf, in context, in the course of the movie, is a grand symbol. It's the perfect symbol for not being played with. Mm-hmm. It's a foreshadow for the prospector. It's genius. It's genius for everything Woody has. Where again, initially he's seeing this as a completely negative thing, being on a shelf, and later in the movie he's going to see it as his salvation, being shelved. Genius.
Okay, but let's not forget about the super harsh thing that Andy does.
Oh yes, the nightmare. So again, I'm sorry, real quick with the rip because it builds the nightmare. The thing with the rip too is the rip is a great visual reminder of Woody is an old toy, which again gives us some new information, prepares us for the new information later on. Okay, Woody's an old toy, and again, he's fragile. Why is he fragile? Sure. How old is Woody? And of course, we're going to get to that later on. But yes, the nightmare sequence. Oh my goodness, the nightmare sequence. This is recycled from the first Toy Story, but it was made very, very much more impressive here.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
It always scared the crap out of me. Here's the thing. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I gotta be honest. The whole the idea of the Ace of Spades is the death card and fortune telling always freaked me out.
Oh God.
And this movie is the reason for that. It still makes me a little uneasy. I mean, now I've seen like Bullseye kill God knows how many people with Ace of Spades playing card, but now I get it. But like then it was just the fact of like, oh guys, I mean, remember when Woody falls, all the cards. If you notice this little dream logic thing, all the cards they're playing with are Ace of Spade cards.
Uh-huh.
When they just throw him down, he falls into the giant Ace of Spades, leads to the trash can full of all arms. All arms. So the nightmare,
which I think is the biggest reference to Sid in this movie.
Absolutely. So basically, Woody's fear, the fear that's being communicated in that nightmare so eloquently, is that it's such a creepy way. Is that Woody's fear is outliving his usefulness, and basically it's because of an uncontrollable factor. His arm ripped. That's not his fault. He's an old toy. His arm ripped. It's like not him being there for the kid. It's the fact that the kid has outgrown you. It's separation from child by proxy. If you want to look at kind of the Toy Story 3 area, death. Not being played with, fulfilling your purpose, leads to death. Again, the Ace of Spades of it all. And again, the parental kind of comparisons that, again, a parent's empty nest syndrome. This essentially is kind of Woody circling some empty nest syndrome that obviously is going to deal with a little bit more in 4. But it's the fear that that eventually will turn to a comfort. That's Woody's arc this movie. Again, you see, seeing this as a terrible thing where, again, you may not be played with by your kid, where you should, of course, his ultimate arc is you got to enjoy it while it lasts and kind of be, it's, again, the empty nest syndrome for the parents. It's a great little, it's great.
Uh-huh.
So the arc is put into play here, absolutely, with the Rip and the Nightmare and all of that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Okay, so then let's talk about the kidnapping.
Yeah, the stakes just like get instantly raised from this point on. It's like, oh crap, yard sale. Okay, it's even worse than moving day. Find your buddy. Oh my god.
I found my moving buddy. Anyway, so speaking of moving buddies, Wheezy.
Yeah, how do you feel about Wheezy?
I love Wheezy. It's a fun little Joe Ranft character. Again, yet another idea kind of got recycled. They need like an ancillary character. Worked him in here, and again, it's like quite a great deal of fun here. Basically, the great thing about Wheezy is a perfect symbol for Woody's fear, and basically the idea that the yard sale happens. Again, one of the other fears of toys. Woody is kind of saving a toy very heroically, as he kind of does by instinct, but also saving a piece of himself. He's trying to qualm his own fear by Wheezy was also shelved because he broke, and this is kind of what I could become if I can save Wheezy from being sold at a yard. So basically, outliving his usefulness and being sold, I can kind of save myself. I can prove my own validity in a sense. So I love kind of the dual motivation of that.
You know what's really cool is that, looking back years later, I feel like that's always kind of been Woody's thing, and they illustrate it like they underline that point in Toy Story 4. The whole like him going out of his way for other toys because it's all he has left.
That's what I'm saying, Tiki. If you really look at, especially
so it's like this is like the stepping stones to Toy Story 4, and it's like all the more reason why this franchise is one of the most consistent franchises. Not just from a quality point of view, but just from a sheer character and storytelling point of view.
See, I feel when Toy Story 4 came out, and this is not, again, you're pulling from good stock any which way you try here. I do feel everyone was looking towards 3 when they really should have been looking more towards 2 when you really see the kind of the way things go.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so of course, and what he's saving Wheezy is kind of a fun little sequence, old act casual gag with Buster's just hysterical. Act casual, not that casual. So let's see. So let's see. Of course, I love the separate. Importantly, Woody is separated from the gang, which is going to be through the whole duration of the movie until the very end of things. He's separated from the gang, and I love the running commentary during the sequences, like they're looking through Buzz.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And let's see. So then, I love I love how it's so. I love the irony that Woody, having found his hat, is the reason he gets kidnapped by Al. And being a very, very prized collectible with all those pieces intact is what gets him. And you know what's funny? They came up with this idea because they realized that the whole duration of the first Toy Story, Woody never lost his hat. He has hat through the whole first movie. So that's why, like, the first idea too, loses the hat.
Clever.
So my favorite, one of this one is with the score in the Rand Newman Buzz Lightyear theme, and we saw this like, homage in Toy Story 4. Nothing will bring me more joy in life. One of the things that will bring me, so few things will bring as much joy in life as seeing Buzz Lightyear spring into action, giving chase to the car, and saving Woody and getting so close. Where he jumps out the window as Al steals Woody, and he's tumbling around as he's going, he's chasing the car. He jumps up, and he's so close. It's like, yes. Oh boy! So,
a lot of these Toy Story movies, I'm realizing, just kind of boil down to toys heroically jumping out of windows.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. A lot of it comes from here. Of course, one of the great Wally Shawn lines of all time. Don't do it, Woody. We love you.
Oh, Wally Shawn. I would dare to say this is Rex's finest hour as well.
Andrew Stanton loves writing Rex, by the way, in the Toy Story. He loves writing Rex. That's why Rex gets all the best lines. So let's say we're going to be all over the place during this stuff, mind you. But let's talk about Al. Let's talk about Al before we lose sight of him. So Al McWiggin.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's such a great piece of the overall Toy Story puzzle. He's just a really excellent device to build up the world and build up more concepts regarding how toys operate in this world. Yeah,
I love how, well, again, even in 1999, by Pixar's kind of animation standards, again, basically they're eons better than the human designs they had in Toy Story. Not that they don't work, but they keep getting better and better as each movie progresses, obviously. But even with Al now, all the little details, like Tiki, if you pause like any image of Al, like you look at his hands, you're going to see all the detail in the fingernails and everything. It's like, oh
Yeah,
god,
totally,
totally. It's as human as they could possibly get in 1999. Again, it keeps getting better from that point forward. But I love there's also a sense of caricature to him. He has these short little Danny DeVito legs.
Right,
right.
right.
And I love they did so logically in the design too. Is like they show that he's a 50s collector. He's like a 50s car. He's got a 50s shirt on. So you see a sense like, okay, this is where the Howdy Doody kind of essentially Woody fill-in if it all came from. A 50s collector would be the 50s Western collector. And of course I always my headcanon with Al, of course, bridging the outside the obvious one. But he's a business owner who deals in toys, which leads to an expensive hobby, which would also be toys. It makes logical sense. You can buy it, and of course, beyond that, on his weekends, doing some voice work for Buzz Lightyear Starkman, maybe. But seriously, how cool would that be, though, if he did that? And again, he stocks. He's kind of getting in on the Buzz Lightyear Starkman action by having his shelves fully stocked with the hottest selling toy of Buzz Lightyear's.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, of course, Woody being kidnapped. I love how we have these shots that kind of sell it all when Woody sees the sign as he walks into the, as he walks in as Al takes him into the apartment. Says, "No children allowed." You see the horror on his face. Like, good, such great acting, man. We have some gags with the crime scene reconstruction and so on and so forth. They're playing on clues. I'm sorry, folks. You got to forgive me. Tiki, you're going to have to clip me off here or there because there's so many great details in all these scenes, man. I could go on forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. It's the transition. We stopped at the transition so we don't miss it. The transitions in this movie are sublime, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like we go from the draw that man in a chicken suit to Al in the chicken suit. Anyway, of course, the American flag later and all that sort of really good transitions. Lee Unkrich, of course, who later would go on to direct Toy Story 3, and him and his editing prowess this early on. He was an editor in the first two Toy Story movies, and first one, then co-director as well as editor on this movie. Okay, let's bridge into the rescue mission of it. Let's bridge into Act 2 territory here.
All right, so this is where I feel like a lot of the summer blockbuster stuff you were talking about comes from.
Oh yeah.
So, of course, we got the iconic crossing the street with the cones thing, which I think is just one of the more memorable Pixar action set pieces.
This is the tensest scene. I'm trying to think of I'm sure we've probably got more tense scenes over the years. I'm absorbed in Toy Story 2 right now. I have a little bit of blinders on at the moment, but I mean, this to me in my youth is the tensest scene ever. I had that novelization as well too. I don't know if I got it from
the tensest scene is Riley getting off the bus because she would have been screwed if she would have had to drive through Oakland. Again, bad shit goes down in Oakland, Dragon.
Again, effective camera movements, and you're just anyway.
I'm just saying, Oakland is not the place where a 10-year-old girl wants to be. All right.
No, seriously. I mean, even this scene, I had the novelization too, because you brought it now. I remember because this scene always stuck out in the novelization, sure. And I don't know if I might have gotten this classic book fair. I swear to God, I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe. No, but seriously, the crossing the road sequence is just and I love, of course, they're crossing the road to a chicken, man. It's like chicken crossing.
That's the road. Great. Why did the toys cross the road?
You get to the chicken.
The chicken on the other side.
Great. But yeah, this the rescue mission on the whole, I love that Buzz is driven by the events of the first Toy Story, which he read because we the audience know Woody wasn't necessarily trying to save Buzz initially out of like a friendship. It developed into a friendship for sure, and again, then they would save each other through the progression of the third act of that movie.
Right.
And I love how he's saving the toy who kind of like changed his whole life, which is something kind of beautiful. I love that's kind of his driving motivation. I like to think he'd do the same for me, and I love that line. Anyway, so the intense, I love the increase in scope, and the increase in scope all comes from the rescue mission because we go deeper into the Tri-County area. We go into we always play with scale with the Toy Story movies when done right. They're not just like giant people in toy suits that kind of they're not like the live performers on Disney on Ice or anything. Like we're not just always in close up on the toys. Mm-hmm. We get to see them and see how they're walking into the city and crossing a street. Sounds very, very. It's pretty much a straight line too. If you really look in the wide shots, it's kind of a straight line into the town. And they cross the street. Pretty simple, but again, if you're a toy, that's an excursion there for you, buddy. But yeah, the harrowing traffic cone sequence and Mr. Potato Head, I was so terrible. He said, "You're not going to be." Here's why, because he said, "You're not going to make a mashed potato out of me." And during that scene, I'm thinking, "Oh God, he's going to." Oh, as a kid, I thought, "Oh
Oh
God,
God, just like
they're gonna,
crushed plastic all over the street.
well, yeah, as a kid,
Oh
I'm thinking
God.
that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking, oh God, he's not going to make it. Of course, I remember they playing with a very Hitchcock with attention. There was like trying to pull the gum off his shoe, like, oh God, what are they doing to us?
I just also like I really like how cartoony the chaos that they cause on the road is.
It is, but again, I
It's
love
almost kind of like Looney Tunes.
but I love the well-structured chaos of it. As they're walking the street, Buzz
Uh-huh.
Lightyear says, "Drop, drop!" And I said, "Drop!" And of course, like some of them didn't hear him. It's like, oh God, it's just it's tension everywhere you turn. But again, wherever they stop, again, it's gonna be like a different traffic pattern of cars suddenly seeing traffic comes. We have to immediately turn, and it's like, it's great. Just Mr. Potato being completely oblivious. Oh, that went well. As like light post fall and everything. It's just, and again, this sequence was they did an ingenious thing where originally it was set deep. Al's Toy Barn was not across from Al's apartment originally. And this sequence was fully animated. They just changed the background on the sequence. Everything that happens is exactly the same, just different location, different like they had literally. It's a little subtle trick, but man, it worked. And this love the logic. I have to go all the way to work on a Saturday. Just has to drive across the street. But again, is it a buy? Is it a location sheet? Yes. Is it awesome? Yes.
For sure.
Speaking of Al's Toy Barn.
Yeah. So
probably the best set piece in the whole movie.
Yeah, again, I love the scale of it. It's kind of just like, like in reality, it's just maybe a few aisles of toys and then some backstage areas and an elevator. But man, we feel the scope of that.
Oh yeah, and I tell you, man, it's it's again illogical logic at its finest. Again, if you go into toys, again, you're gonna get toys, namely from a toy store most of the time. So what if the toys adventured into the Al's Toy Barn outlet, which we set up so well in the Buzz Lightyear commercial? All Buzz Lightyear's found Al's Toy Barn outlets.
Mm-hmm.
So of course the root of the Toy Story magic of basically in the creation of Toy Story is very much like we're in Toys R Us and there's basically guys kind of having a lot of fun with going down to toy houses and kind of reminiscing, kind of with fun gags. Like, how would an army man feel about being cooped up in a plastic tube all
right.
Like all basically it's the birthplace. Toys R Us is kind of the birthplace of Toy Story in a sense. That's where they did all the research. Kind of a sense of like all the gags. You get to really see all of that. The DNA of Toy Story really come to life in Al's Toy Barn. That's what's really special. They have that great light. I love the dark, ominous light before the toy store is open. So I love that it's like got dark. It's kind of like it's dark because the lights aren't all on. It's kind of like it's like every aisle is like a different adventure, a different interaction. And Barbie's down one because every time you go, whether it had been a K&B Toys of the past, or it would be a Toys R Us, you have that all pink aisle. That's the Barbie aisle, and it's all pink. And we have the Super Bowl thing, where, of course, we have Tori Guy Bar slamming the Super Bowls, which I got to tell you, Tiki, I swear, I was rewatching Gremlins for the holidays.
Yeah.
And there's Super Bowl sequence. I wonder if they got that from Gremlins. I swear to you. It's like there's the same word. Anyway. Of course, like the pressure mat, like, the toys, one toy can't activate the pressure mat. You're going to need a lot more force there, all this sort of stuff. So a lot of really great kind of beautiful setting. All right. So let's look at the Roundup Gang.
All right, so of course, if the rescue mission is the action blockbuster of this movie, then obviously the Roundup Gang is the heart of this movie.
Certainly.
Man, Dragon, I have changed my tune so much about Jesse. Jesus Christ. I was a cynical, young, little fucking edgelord when I was like, oh, when somebody loved me ruins the pace of this movie. It grinds the movie to a screeching halt.
Oh, you were that kid.
Yeah, I was. I was an idiot, Dragon, because Jessie, Jesus Christ, her character is dark in this movie for a lot of it. Like, I forgot just how, like, even before that scene, I forgot, just how, like, antagonistic her relationship with Woody is.
Yeah, the fascinating thing with Jessie is that Jessie could have been. I'm just going to jump to. Let's just talk about the When Somebody Loved Me, then we'll build into the rest of the gang here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So, When Somebody Loved Me has a sequence. Of course, talking about Jessie overall. Jessie could have very easily been a really cliche character. So Oh, she doesn't like him for reasons like direct to video reason. It could have been a very much like, oh, you have this one. It's like a Tinkerbell and Jane from the Peter Pan 2. That whole thing could have been that whole thing where they kind of like each other, but they're really on the other side of the fence. That's the thing where Jessie could have very easily been just a cliche purely that she needs him, but she kind of doesn't like him. By the end, movie she'll kind of grow to like him. And but here we gave her heart, we gave her depth that bounces out like her anger towards Woody, where you think we love Woody, but how dare she be angry at this beloved character? Where no, she has legit
dare I
reason.
say this might be kind of like a breaking new ground sort of thing in terms of I would wager to say that the depiction of post-traumatic stress disorder in the When Somebody Loved Me sequence and just throughout Jessie's character arc in this movie, Dragon, I'd be remiss to say that it might be the first time, at least in children's animation, that mental illness was ever brought up.
Well, again, we know we definitely pull on that thread when we get the stuff like Toy Story of Terror with her, her
for
claustrophobia, and again, she obviously has abandonment issues, which they do seed their way into a little bit of Toy Story 3 as well. So you're definitely right there. Definitely, we show that here.
I'm just saying, like, in terms of like that is one of those things that modern animation is really trying to go for, is kind of like getting to the psychological root of the character.
Look how naturally it was done here.
Exactly, but it was done really naturally here. But I feel like because it was done so naturally here, it really just kind of like set the stage. It, like I said, it was a trailblazer in that
and
regard.
in no longer than 3 minutes. Crazy, right? See, that's the thing. So this backstory is really clever, and that like once and again done again through song lyric, but you can kind of visually see everything that's going on here. Where it's like once we learn that Jessie and Woody are very similar in their backstories with their kids, and she is a symbol. It has a character. She is kind of a symbol, but more importantly, she has a parallel to Woody's arc that really hits you on the rewatch so greatly, and that like she's Woody with a more tragic outlook on things. So basically, we the kids grow up. We see a sequence of what basically it could await. Essentially, what awaits Woody and Buzz and the gang in Toy Story 3 is that over the years their kid grows up. Emily grows up, and she drifts from the Western of the 50s.
Andy's mom.
Yeah, God, that theory. Point being, she the girl grows up. Emily grows up. And she moves on from the Western to essentially kind of like the more makeup and kind of more trendy kind of things of the next decade or so on and so forth. Right. I maybe a sense of the 70s, I'm not sure. Point being, we have like the wonderful symbol of the dust. Which
and
also
Andy's mom.
Yes. All has to be connected.
I'm just saying, Andy doesn't own a Woody hat; he owns a Jessie hat.
You're right. Look, I'm open to it. They've shot. They're the ones who've shot it down. Or if Pete Docter says no, I'm inclined to believe.
Pete Docter wasn't the only one who worked on these movies.
Anyway. Okay. Anyway, my point. So we have like some great other symbols like the dust and everything. Of course, again, the old visual symbol of time passing. Again, which by the way. Dust particle systems and everything animation, not easy. Did it like chance.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, especially for the time.
And here's the cruelest thing when you really look at it, Tiki. At the end of Somebody Love Me, when she's being right before she's put in the box, she's being carried in Emily's purse. Imagine how cruel that guy is.
I know.
Unintentionally cruel. It's like she undusts her, puts her in the bag. You see how happy Jessie's expression is while that Sarah McLachlan music's playing, and then you're put in a box. That's where it kind of eludes you until they realize, like, oh god, that's where the real trauma hits. Like she was tantalized by hope right there. She's poisoned by hope in a moment there. And again, Woody in this sequence from Jessie's story and everything, Woody is given a look at what his fate likely is, and in the heart of the matter, which leads to his big choice for the movie, which is to go to the museum. Of course, Jesse's haunting line is, "They forget you. You remember your kids, but they forget you." And that's Woody armed with half the information, half the lesson in the movie. So again, just to backpedal a little bit here to the whole. What did you think about the whole '50s the Howdy Doody angle for Woody? How do you feel the whole roundup?
Oh, I love it. I love the whole aesthetic of it. To me, it's one of my favorite parts of the entire Toy Story franchise.
Certainly, and I love how
I've always armchair imagineered this idea, Dragon. It's one of my favorite armchair imagineering ideas. I would love a Woody's Roundup Dark Ride that's all black and white. And you can
sorry,
like see the strings on the animatronic and everything.
I'm sorry, I'm just kind of melting right now. Yes,
Yes.
I know you. I know you told me this.
Stage show.
Mind you, I'm pretty sure you told me this before.
They did do a stage show of Woody's Roundup that was all black and white. Like the costumes and the backgrounds and everything were all black and white. So that's cool. But yeah, a full-blown Woody's Roundup Dark Ride, all black and white.
All kinescope animation, baby.
Dragon in the middle of it, in the middle of this Dark Ride, there'd be a cliffhanger, and then we go to a Cowboy Crunchies commercial break.
Yes! Yes! Oh, man. I want this so much. I do. I really do.
Oh, believe me, Dragon, this is one of the legacy armchair Imagineering ideas that I've been working on for a long time. Anyways,
that sounds like the best thing ever. Anyway, but that's the thing. I love the idea of making Woody kind of the howdy doody fill in here. I think it's genius because one, it makes sense. It also necessitates, okay, so Woody's a hand-me-down toy. He's kind of from the 50s. Howdy Doody, very big icon of the 50s. So basically, that's what we've just kind of made Woody like the Howdy Doody fill-in for our world here. But also, it retroactively, Woody was of a Buzz Lightyear status at a different time. And it allows kind of an extra life experience, kind of an extra, again, a great, they parallel each other so well in this movie, wherein the roles are reversed, but also the experiences are reversed, and kind of the arcs are a little reversed in that sense of, Buzz being Woody's position and so on and so forth. So it's, I love how at first the Roundup Gang has kind of a cult-like first impression with Woody. It's like, it's like, it's you. It's like, okay, be a little freaked out. And you're all like drifting towards him slowly. But again, we soften them by kind of like seeing it's out of love. It's out of like our fearless leader has returned after all this time. Bullseye, the faithful companion. You have Jesse and the prospector played by the Kells, man. The freaking Kells.
Kells.
The Kells.
What is this, the river in Scotland?
No, the wonderful, the Frasier himself, folks, Kelsey Grammer, otherwise known as, especially by Kevin Smith, the Kells.
Oh God, yeah, I love how understated a lot of this performance is.
I know, man. I tell you, this is like way before I learned what the heck Sideshow Bob was, man. I tell you, this was to me is one of Kelsey Grammer's. Even before I knew what Frasier was, man, this was my Kelsey Grammer introduction. It was such a good one. It really was.
It set the stage for better or for worse for twist villains.
It did. At
least as far as Disney and Pixar is concerned.
Certainly, I love how we have three different takes of a character all within the same toy. I love how they all have a different trauma or like a different role in a sense. Where again, Bullseye is the faithful companion without question. Again, Jessie, she has a trauma of abandonment. She's what Woody is. She's embodies Woody's fear. And Prospector, which we'll get to a little bit when we get to the big twist of it all, a little in Act 3, which we're getting to very soon. Prospector, essentially, he is what Woody could become, or like Woody could have become if he never met Buzz Lightyear.
Basically, like the evil marionette version of Woody from the first drafts of Toy Story.
Essentially, yes. And of course, I love that Tom Hanks had a lot of fun with like all the merchandise. Some of which they built, others of which is kind of gave him a photograph. And he's actually
My favorite one is the one where you throw the ball at the teeth.
I know, me too. Yes, I love that.
Nice.
That old game, the whole the snake in my boot launcher, which is precious. So again, all that's just Hanks improvising in the moment, where he's showing these things for the first time.
Is
so
it really just?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry. So Hanks isn't coming up with the stuff on the spot. He's like literally given a box of stuff.
He's being shown this stuff and he's reacting to it.
Oh my God. Okay, that's adorable.
It's like him saying, "Oh, it's a bank." Like, I don't know, maybe off inside someone like someone's either illustrating.
Go back and rewatch that scene like right now just to hear Hanks's like genuine reactions.
Dude, when they recorded especially the first two Toy Story movies, especially even the first one, Tom Hanks works wonderfully with props. I don't think they do this anymore, like with 3 and 4, but in the early days, like when he's playing with Buzz's arm. I remember when Buzz he's trying to fake that Buzz Lightyear is alive when he's basically when he's kind of momentarily dismembered, and basically they gave Tom Hanks like one of those Halloween arms you put in your trunk that John Lasseter had, and he's all of that was most if not all of that was improvised. He's probably given a guideline like what exactly he's doing here, but again, all that he's improvising. Anyway, again, Hanks giving folks, we gotta talk about Tom Hanks. Apropos,
Oh
they
man.
sound. All right, so of course, with the whole scale of the record player, it's a great little, the whole turntable factor of all. Again, the scale of toys, man, it's a great idea. And playing musically with it, a lot of fun there. It's fun, but we can go all day about how great Woody's ran out of business as a concept, and just like I tell you, the score too, the whole da da da, like when basically Woody he's stepping on the Time magazine cover. That moment really signifies something special,
Sure.
So he's like, "You're an icon, man." Like, oh god, how trippy an experience that must be. You find out you're a big deal. All right, Diluted Buzz. So much. Well, I love Diluted Buzz so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's great. I mean, it is essentially just kind of like playing out the first movie and fast forward a little bit, but what's so fun about it is the way that they decide to break everything up, so that we've got Diluted Buzz leading our main guys around on like this harebrained, like wild goose chase that just happens by dumb luck to get them where they need to go. And then by the same token, you have regular Buzz kind of like following them around and just behind them every step of the way. And it's a lot of fun. It leads to a lot of the movie's best laughs.
This is gonna sound so corny, but I really do kind of drool when I see the Buzz Lightyear aisle. Just seeing all those Buzz Lightyears in one aisle like that, just as cool, and in the awesome box and everything. So you know how much I love that box. I love that packaging of the Buzz Lightyear toy when done right. It just seemed that
you've never seen that in real life. Just a full aisle of just nothing but Buzz Lightyears.
someone have to pick me up off the floor if I saw that.
Oh God.
I would just be like, oh god, they like realizing again this seminal moment from my nostalgic.
I could totally see that being something that Disney would do for like a pop-up Disney event or like D23 or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It sounds so. Oh god. Anyway, so but of course I love when we get to the we have the great line from Baru, which is a real true life thing. Short-sighted retailers did not order enough dolls to meet demand in Christmas of 1995, and that happened in real life because they just convinced Thinkway Toys to do this. They ordered it was either like some prefix. Let me put it this way: it was maybe six, like let's just say six, let's say 60,000, or like the point is something on the low ends of the six area, like maybe 600. Maybe 600,000. I don't know. The point being, they ordered for like all across Thinkway Toys. And after the Toy Story 8, which comes out in November, following month, they're going to want toys that are, again, to scale. Like this is like the 12-inch Buzz Lightyear. Like John Lasseter convinced, let's do exactly what Andy has for what we can make at 1995. And sold like crazy. It was basically, again, many people, again, I can't verify this, but again, 1996, Jingle All the Way comes out. I'm pretty sure inspired by Buzz Lightyear. The Buzz Lightyear sale. They basically needed a toy, and again, like a toy with all the chock full of all the features and everything, very Buzz Lightyear inspired, I'm sure. Legally, they can't say that. That's why we'll never know, but Anyway, but yes, it is. I love that we put Buzz in Woody's shoes, where he has to put up with Diluted Buzz. And again, this is what I'm talking about, the great parallel they share in this movie, where like Buzzy looks up between the legs of the other Buzz Lightyears. You have we mirror the shot of, like the introduction of Buzz Lightyear from the first movie, and all the diluted comedy. So again, I love that we're allowing our Buzz Lightyear to grow, but we get this a diluted Buzz who's twice as diluted.
Mm-hmm.
And I love I love how very Star Trek is. It's very like a good Kirk beats evil Kirk. It's that whole thing. It's that we have you've got the Twilight Zone moment of you've got the wrong Buzz, you've got the wrong Buzz. He's trapped. He's just shivering back and forth inside the box. Oh God, it's so. Oh man, that's so cool. I'm getting all wistful and nostalgic here. Let's Zurg. Let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about Zurg.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I will admit, Dragon, one of the things about this movie is that I do think that by the time we get to the final confrontation with Zurg, it is a little bit just, all right, we're having fun with the Star Wars parody here.
You know what originally it was? How they originally dispatched with Zurg and they did the animation test in this.
Don't get me wrong, like I love the payoff when they're outside playing catch with each other. I fucking love that. That's amazing. I don't know. I just think the whole like "I am your father" thing maybe a little overplayed.
You know what? I don't know. You know what my headcanon is on the rewatch. It's just kind of something that makes it even better. You don't need this, but it makes it even better if you really think about it. Because Buzz Lightyear from the start, even when you read the box, when Woody's, we know what Buzz Lightyear's imperative is in the first Toy Story movie. It's on his box and it's in his head when he's like talking to Woody about why he needs to get back to Star Command. It's a ripoff of Star Wars. Therefore, the people who created Buzz Lightyear, like many other toy lines of the era, of like your 80s and 90s period, many times, more so in the 80s, they'd rip off other toy lines very easily. They're going to rip off other toy lines or other properties. Like, we need a Star Wars-like thing. They ripped off Star Wars. Very simple.
Mhm.
They ripped off the whole universe. Buzz Lightyear's trying to, like R2-D2, he knows the plans that are going to stop Zurg from basically building the Death Star. That's what Buzz Lightyear's imperative is.
So where's the Sewer Sharks episode of the Toys That Made Us Netflix?
But you see what I mean, right? So again, essentially, it's like Zurg, the whole "I am your father" thing, pure Star Wars ripoff, and unabashedly, if you really think of that, it's like it's what it is. It's what's been from the start. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's oh god, just I tell you, Zurg might, for my money, might be the coolest design ever.
He's a great design. He totally is.
Especially as a toy design. I mean, Zurg was the toy to scale versions of which I now have, but it took decades. Decades for me to get the Zurg figure that I always wanted. You know, just because I always wanted that 12-inch Zurg that could face off against the 12-inch Buzz Lightyear. They finally made it, but I always wanted that box too. They made it as close as I'm ever going to get. It's not perfect, but it's as close as you're humanly going to get to the Zurg in that box and everything. They took roughly 2 decades, roughly. More like 15 years, let's just say. Let's say 2 decades. Point being, it took many years. And I tell you, man, it's Zurg. The only way they can make it even better is if he could actually shoot the rubber balls.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
That's the thing. They always. The point being, Zurg is just cool. And they model after. They put a lot of really great features into him. I love his little wheels, little roller wheels on him. He's purple. They made him look so darn cool. And again, he's a villain with really, again, not a lot of payoff, but again, he just looks menacing. And again, real Buzz Lightyear, not at all intimidated by him because he knows he's a toy. He's just shooting rubber balls at him. And that, honestly, that's what the original thing was, where it was in Al's Toy Barn. It was a one and done scene where, okay, Zurg comes out and he attacks Buzz, and Buzz's solution is he's being shot at by rubber balls, just walking right into him. He takes the battery out of his gun, that's his ion blaster. And again, the whole my power module, which would have complemented the opening. And he throws it into the Rock'em Sock'em Robot ring, where basically Zurg is being punched by both the Rock'em Sock'em Robots. That's what the whole scene was going to be. But again, would have lacked all the Star Wars ambiance and all the it's Zurg. Would have lacked all that great.
And of course, Rex does play a part in bringing Zurg down, and
precisely
that's a nice arc.
What I'm saying, I think everything worked out for the best with that. So it's of course Andrew Stan doing the voice of Zurg, and of course having to deliver "No Buzz, I am your father," which is kind of true. He is kind of Buzz's father, technically. He wrote him. He put the words of the page. All right. Okay, so again, look, we can quote diluted Buzz lines all the live long day. The magnet scene's a great one too, when they're climbing up the elevator, and of course it's like, I'm going to let go on 3, 1, 2, 3. And this is one time we're mirroring the opening with the Buzz Lightyear video game. All this coming from the diluted Buzz. Anyway, all right, let's bridge in Act 3. Act 3. Basically, the big reunion between Buzz, Woody, and the whole gang. They found Woody. Hooray!
Yeah, this was bold, man. This was bold for the second movie in the franchise for Woody to make a decision like this. Like, no, guys, I want to go, and I'm very content with this decision. Like, at this point, Stinky Pete has not shown his true intentions at all. Like, this is totally Woody's call.
Let me brought him up. I'm so glad you. Listen, the Prospector is such a fascinating character. Think about this. The Prospector is driven by being passed over by children, and in a sense, like, because he was passed over by children, it led him to grow up. Like, he grew up more than any toys ever grown up before.
He's almost kind of like a more sinister version of the carnival toys from Toy Story 4.
That's an excellent comparison. Yes. You know, he's mint in the box, but not by choice.
They actively want to have kids no matter how long it takes, but he just never got the opportunity.
Never got the opportunity. He grew out of it. He was an old toy from a toy line that if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say there weren't a lot of Woodies made. Therefore, he would probably you want to buy him in a set, and no set would exist if I'm just going to fill in some blanks here. My point is, again, you get to see like the struggles of a toy that's mint in the box. And again, for any collectors out there, it's like a worst nightmare situation. If the toys you kept mint in the box were sentient, it would be horrific. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, I love the three traumas we had.
Words for me, Dragon.
But you see what I mean? I love how each of these Woody's Roundup characters have a different trauma, have like a different kind of like a connection there. Bullseye being the least on the spectrum there, but the idea is he was without his other half for many years. That's kind of if you want to infer anything on Bullseye. My point is, he's the faithful Steel. Like no one wants the horse without Woody. So that's why he was kind of like passed over as well. But he has a chipper attitude about it. He has friends. Regardless, so Mint in the Box, not by choice. He's taken the collector's perspective, and that he's basically turned his ultimate negative. That I grew up, I looked past the whole I wanted to be played with by a kid. I've convinced myself I don't want that anymore. He's learned. Honestly, he's like learned from the environment, like looking down on everybody. He's learned from the environment. He's become this calculating manipulator he's this great manipulator because he manipulates Woody so strategically. If you really think about it, he orchestrated the fight between Woody and Jesse because he kicked that remote in front of Jesse. He knew it was going to lead to him mixing up with Jesse.
Right.
He also orchestrated the reconciliation. Perfect cover. And he also the most impressive thing, the thing that I will always give Kelsey Grammer in this movie, the best thing Kelsey Grammer did in this movie was the comforting when Woody's looking into the abyss of going down, basically leaving Al's apartment, going away before as he makes the choice, looking to the uncertain abyss of the future of what will happen with Andy. He says, "How long can it last, Woody? Will Andy will take you to college, take you on his honeymoon?"
Oh man.
Like that's I think one of the Kelsey Grammer's finest moments of acting in that movie, where he
just like it's sinister, but like like heartwarming at the same time.
Like he is not somehow saying. He's trying to be reassuring, and throughout the movie, he's been very maternal. Like it's a pop scene. It could be much worse. You consider yourself lucky. That whole thing. It's a dangerous world out there for a toy. So that's what I'm saying. He brings so much. He brings this dread and experience and wisdom. Again, you set him up as somebody to trust. Therefore, you trust him. Like that's what I'm saying. Like they used Kelsey Grammer because he brought that respectability in that class. He brought, but also it's like imagine we're turning kind of the erudite thing Kelsey Grammer does. We turn it on its hinges, where it's like, what if we looked at a little bit again? It seems charming, but you turn the dial just a little bit towards the 11. There's a joke there, and you'll have the menace. You'll have the menace of like, oh god, he's become aristocratic a little bit. There's just like, I've been on a dime store shelf.
Oh god,
being passed over while every other toy got sold.
Tony Stark built this in a cave.
And of course, I love the fact, and retroactively, we see Toy Story 3. I love the idea that the prospector was wrong and that Andy was going to take Woody to college. I love that there was something there that the prospector overlooked. I always love that looking back on Toy Story 2. The prospector is, again, the what if Woody became embittered by Buzz Lightyear? Because, again, a big reason all the other toys that are being bought were space toys. Or Buzz Lightyear's probably, for all we know. Or the fill-in for Buzz Lightyear before Buzz Lightyear came around. And again, he just refused. Like, what if Woody refused to grow from the hatred, from the jealousy that probably would have evolved into a hatred of Buzz Lightyear? What if he never grew? What if he was like the Black Friday cut of Woody? What if he was like the one who just became really unlikable and again, like was punching Buzz Lightyear off of things? Like, what if Woody became that? And again, like the Roundup gang, without their leader, it essentially leads to all these. Basically, the prospect kind of lays out that again, without Woody and the gang, they don't go to Japan, they don't go to the toy museum, they don't get to be loved by children in a different way. Their flaws will continue without their leader, which is kind of sad when you take Woody out of the equation. These guys' lives have kind of been ruined.
Situation for Woody, it really is. This might be the biggest crisis of faith that Woody ever has in the franchise.
Precisely, and it's also kind of sad when you think about it. The only way the prospector has value is to keep everyone miserable as he is deep down. Because again, here's the thing, T. I'm convinced on a rewatch. Prospector knows exactly what they're in for in Tokyo. I don't think again Woody has it explained by Buzz. You'll be behind glass. I don't think Jesse and Bullseye realize that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like, imagine what Jesse's reaction is going to be. I don't know if they're going to be in the same case. They probably will, but on the off chance they're going to be separated. Jesse's claustrophobia and everything, and she's going to be like trapped and being taunted by like you're loved by kids, but still it's like you'll never be able to play with them. It's again, that's the thing. But that's what that gives the prospector a purpose in life. That's his version of a toy's purpose. But it's selfish. But again, it's so. I love how layered it is. Like if you noticed anything by this, folks, I love how layered it is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Woody and Buzz's big scene here is, of course, an impossible position, and I love how Buzz is in utter disbelief. Like, you're not. Woody's bought into his own hype. But I love how it's not making Woody unlikable. Where again, Woody has a position here where he's kind of doing it to protect his Roundup gang here. Where again, they're going to be putting storage Buzz.
No, you absolutely like. That's the thing with Woody. Like, if I would use one word to describe Woody, some people would say loyal. I would say empathetic. Woody is an incredibly empathetic character. He is empathetic towards everything.
Absolutely. I'm Tiki. I read the Toy Story 2 script way back in the day. Not when it was coming out, but I looked into it, looked at what was going to be Toy Story 2 when it was going to be a direct-to-video. And the way it was originally supposed to go, and it ended up, just to show you how much better it ended up than what it was going to be. Like, basically, the Roundup game was going to be like an elitist, like a social club. And the idea is that they were looking down, and they were looking down. That was what the mentality was going to be. And saying they were still the Roundup game, but that was how they were all going to be really snobby, like elitist guys. That was what their whole thing was like. They're like,
thank God that didn't happen. Wow.
I don't even think I don't think Jesse's name originally was Senorita Cactus. So that's the I don't know how much of Jesse was actually formed at that point. I don't think any of the Jesse stuff was in there personally. My point is, the idea is like Buzz shows up and Woody looks down on him. That would have been really like he would have lost and then found his way back for sure, but still would have been this whole like he would have looked down on Buzz for a moment, which would have been really unlikable, which we don't do here, which is a really great call.
Yeah, but, no, instead, Woody, like I said, this is like just an impossible situation for him to be in. He has to he has to betray somebody in this moment.
I love how we have an inverse of the big crate scene from Toy Story. Remember when Woody's under the crate and Buzz has the rocket strapped to him. Buzz is depressed and basically Woody tells him what it means to be a toy. That big scene. This is the inverse of that scene. It's kind of that scene plus the whole the Dinoco scene. The whole "you are a toy," but in reverse, where Buzz says, "you are a toy." It's so fun. It's so simple, but it's so fun. But seriously though,
book writing going on there.
True, but again, I love how we just take this whole thing of like Buzz explained to him the joys of being a toy, just kind of parallelly echoing the words that Woody said to him here, and again, it's this. It's just such a strong moment where Buzz is saying, "The toy I came to rescue isn't here right now. Let's go, guys."
Mm-hmm.
And basically the big debate of it all here, Woody's choice, and Woody kind of getting back on board here, is that Buzz presents the other side of the argument here. He presents the whole. You could be immortal, but you're going to be preserved behind glass versus you're going to be vulnerable. Any day could be your last, but you'll be loved. Like that's a Toy Story movie. A Toy Story movie is raising these huge ideological questions, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. So of course, then he sees the one time Tom Hanks never wanted to sing, but he was able to. We put "You've Got a Friend in Me" in universe with this moment here, where when Tom Hanks as Woody is saying "You've Got a Friend in Me" on the Hattie Doody version of Woody's Roundup, and he sees that he's being loved by a kid, and the love behind the kid's eye in that moment it changes him, and we have the symbol of the boot, which by the way, when we had the cleaner come in, Jerry from Jerry's Game, he covers up the boot. It's a haunting moment, and I love that.
Yes. Absolutely.
And as we know, especially by Toy Story 4, when a kid writes their name on your shoe, man, that's a historic moment for you right there. That's when things come alive. That's a huge.
It's basically a toy being baptized, if you will.
In a sense, maybe not born, but definitely baptized. You're right.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being, big moment. Woody comes around, and then we get to basically kind of our climax. So basically, the continuing climax of Act 3. So we start with the Pizza Planet truck.
Yes, of course. What a great callback. Really exciting stuff there. It's the first of quite a few Pixar climaxes that are like, wait a minute, they can't drive a vehicle.
Can they? So, of course, this to me is the best use of the Pizza Planet truck thus far. It is. I mean, maybe obviously, never mind, the rest of them are Easter eggs, but still, it's like the coolest. It's a Deus Ex Machina in the best sense of the word. It's the most awesome Deus Ex Machina you're ever going to see. Well, short of the claw in Toy Story 3, sure, but you know what I mean. It's just this. I love the toys driving the vehicle and just completely winging it. By the way, they have a vague idea how it works. They have no real clue, and I love how. If you really look at this sequence, I love how everyone has a role in this crazy sequence. Mr. Potato Head, he saves the LGMs, and you've saved our lives. We are eternally grateful. Which I got to tell you, Toy Story 4 at the end credits, we have that little tribute to Don Rickles. Don Rickles, of course, has passed away, and I love how they use that line. We are eternally grateful. It's such the sweetest little. It gave it never has like it just gave me so much chills when I was watching that moment. I'm sorry, I'm drifting off in the Toy Story 4 right now. My point is, this scene, I love that everyone has kind of a purpose. Like Ham's reading the owner's manual, not being really helpful in the scene. She's like, oh, there's no way he's getting this sort of mileage. He's just kind of commenting like, oh man, whoever purchased this vehicle needed to make certain other choices. Anyway. But of course, Buzz Lightyear driving the pizza plant truck is a visual. Like I finally got a Funko Pop of this thing like a few months ago. I did one for I doubt it was for the sheer coincidence of Toy Story 2 turns 20. Maybe we're gonna put out a few commemorative things for Toy Story 2. If they were just doing a vehicle thing, it's a little Buzz Lightyear to scale, pop wise to scale, driving a big pizza plant truck. And it's like him clinging on the wheel.
That's cool.
It's like yes, and it's like oh
nice.
God, that's what I'm saying, man. I adore the pizza plant truck, specifically as it's used in the Toy Story movies, and this is like the best use. And again, it gets us from point A to point B in an exciting way. And again, it's kind of like we've upgraded the traffic cone sequence. No longer are they traveling by traffic cone; they are now blowing over the traffic cones as they're driving full speed to the airport and giving chase to Woody. Just a great, fun, insane sequence. A lot of fun there. Okay, airport climax. So. What's up with the baggage area, man? Baggage, the conveyor belt sequence.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe the predecessor to the door sequence in Monsters, Inc., dare I say, with the feel of it.
Yes, great comparison. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's just they took the mundane and they made it remarkable with the scale. And again, you look, okay, it's a baggage claim. It might look a little impressive, but if you're a toy, you're essentially, it's like if they could ever do another ride, if we could ever do like the ultimate Toy Story ride, we just go through all the moments of the Toy Story franchise.
Well, Dragon, I just laid out the ultimate Toy Story ride.
I know. I'm adding to your thing right now. What I'm saying is, if you went through all the big moments of the entire Toy Story franchise, and like one section is the whole Woody's Roundup section, and you have the baggage claim area, and you go forward and forward as it.
Yeah, I'd like to explore Woody's Roundup.
Look, yours is clearly better. I'm just trying. Anyway, the point is, the baggage claimer is it's quite great. And the point is, like you're in like a little dog container, and you're basically going down as if you're in like a theme park ride before you're brought out. And I love that we have to split the gang up because we have, of course, illogical logic. There's going to be multiple versions of the same piece of luggage.
Right.
And of course, I love Slinky. I love how in the thick of it again. I don't know why, T. It's just that Buzz Lightyear theme when Buzz is running. It's just really exciting, and it was just like Buzz with that ridiculous Butte, Montana sticker on him. Just funny. And Slinky just. My back end's going to Baton Rouge. It's just like Slinky's taken out of the equation. And we have just the great staging on this. I love this. It's just a constantly moving environment with stuff going on in the background. I don't know why. It just works. And, Buzz, he's running there. He's like, okay, Woody, I got you. He's sucker punched by the prospect. Like, oh, God, he's punched off the conveyor belt. It doesn't get more exciting than this, folks. It really doesn't. And we have this tense Woody versus Prospector showdown. And again, look, logically, it is like a whole we don't care mode here. Like, could the Prospector really rip the stitching Woody's on with a plastic pickaxe? Maybe. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. He's threatening to carve Woody up into pieces, man. We're going dark with it.
I mean, I honestly think the fact that the Pizza Planet truck is just kind of conveniently there is more of a we don't care. I'm
sorry, look, you're right. I'm just looking in the moment here, but you're right. That is actually
I hear you. I'm just saying, if we're gonna nitpick something, I'd nitpick that over the Stinky Pete thing.
You're right, Oak. I honestly kind of noticed in the moment, but I was thinking, wait, could the plastic cut through the string? It doesn't. Point being, yes, Pete's Planet trick. Deus Ex Machina. We don't care. No, in all seriousness, though, it's kind of it's a harrowing sequence where it looks like Woody's going to be a goner, and I love on the rewatch it kind of occurs to me Buzz Lightyear does the George Reeves thing. I wonder if they use that as direct reference where he does the thing where I love in the George Reeves Superman where Superman. He basically would hold the bad guy up like he were a child or something. Basically, hold him up by the scruff of his collar. And he basically holds him in midair, and he's helpless. He can't do anything. The Prospector, at his scale, being shorter than Buzz Lightyear, Buzz just holds the Prospector from behind, holds him up, just like George Reeves as Superman takes care of the bad guys. I love it.
And in kind of a style of that, it's like, yeah, you're right. We do take care of the bad guy in a really, a really funny way. He gets a funny comeuppance.
Yeah, Tiki, there's one bit of Toy Story, a little bit of Toy Story lore I've never been able to find. I heard the rumors of it. I've still, to this day, I've never been, in
Okay.
20 years, I've never been able to find it. I heard there were these lost little gag interviews with the characters from the movie.
Really?
I assumed they were animated. If they weren't animated, that's why I haven't found it. But they sounds like the descriptions sound like they were animated. I could never find the full on descriptions. But in my youth, when I was looking at Toy Story 2, they had these. There's like a lost interview. Basically, you checked in the aftermath of the characters, like how Jesse and Bullseye are accommodating to the room, like Bo Peep's talking about Jesse, that sort of thing.
Right.
And the other thing was that you see the prospector talk about his life as the new owner's toy, as the girl, I think it was Amy or something, the artist, the girl who's the artist.
Uh-huh.
And presumably you saw him all scribbled up and all decorated. And that's why I always wanted to see that.
Do you think you would have been into it by that point?
That's what I'm saying. If I remember correctly, that was what the interview was, where he says, "Oh yeah, he's adjusted, but positively to these. He's being played with by a toy, but he's all scribbled on everything. But his point being, he's being played with."
I don't know if there was like actually room for him in Toy Story 3, but I would have fucking loved to see him show up in Sunnyside in Toy Story 3.
I would have lost my mind if that happened. We got Zurg, man. I mean, Zurg was already impressive. They had the prospector, and they're like, "Oh my!"
That's what I'm saying. Like, he didn't like he wouldn't have to play a big role, but I could see him maybe like having a little redemption moment where he helps Woody.
Oh God! Now you're just making me sound.
all right.
I'm zero now. Okay.
God.
I'm saying you said prospector redemptive moment with Woody. That's like, oh God. That's.
Hey man, you know I love the villain turned anti-hero arc.
That's the thing. So I'm saying, so there might be this lost interview footage of kind of like a little check-in of redemption with the prospector. Who knows?
Oh God. Okay.
But again, it's mythical.
The point is, we still got movie left, Dragon.
We do. Yes. All right. So the plane. Oh God, the plane sequence.
The plane.
So Woody is actually in a western right now. Again, we recreate the last episode and the whole Woody's theme. He's Randy Newman going full, fully. Okay, we're in a full-on western right now, guys. Woody and Buzz like on Bullseye's, giving this chase to this again. The sheer scale of it. Again, we're on a tarmac of an airport. Never in watching the first Toy Story did I ever think we're going to be on the tarmac of an airport. It's like, oh God, it keeps going. We're chasing after a plane. We're going the full Die Hard too. So then we have so point is like Woody's on the plane. He's going to save Jesse. Jesse didn't quite make it in time, so Woody's now heisting his way onto the plane, and then we have the matchstick moment.
What would you consider the matchstick moment?
Oh, this is very simple, Tiki.
Okay.
Matchstick moment is very clear here. This is back when they really defined him very easily in the early movies. So the matchstick moment is, of course, for the folks out there, of course, matchstick moment reference the first Toy Story when Woody, you the audience think you know what's going to happen. He's going to light the rocket. And the car whizzes by, blows out, and they have to find a new, like, what are we going to do now? It's that moment of, oh God, it didn't happen the way we thought it was. What are we going to do now? Matchstick moment. It's in every Pixar movie. And here, Woody and Jesse, Woody saves Jesse. He kind of uplifts her spirits, like, Annie's got a little sister too, which, again, so there's a silver lining there. She's like, oh, that's great. So they're about to hop off the plane. They're going to go on 3. Going to pull the old lethal weapon of it all here. 1, 2, 3, and then the baggage guy from the other side says, no, we got to put the extra luggage on the other plane. Is it? Oh.
Right.
As if like they were about to get off the plane, and it just like missed it by a second. So now
she didn't get off the plane.
What the heck are they going to do now? Which then leads to this harrowing
David Schwimmer is crushed, Dragon.
That he is.
David Schwimmer is very concerned.
So this leads to the awesome, again, just the sheer scope of we're on the tarmac, and then the plane's about to take off, going to go to Japan. Woody and Jesse are going to go to Japan. That's not good. We don't want them to go to Japan. Annie's going to be home in cowboy camp tomorrow.
It's like Woody and Jesse go to Japan, and in Pixar animates like a Lost in Translation style indie movie of that.
Tiki, stop pitching me movies that I want to see. Okay, stop.
I'm sorry, I just have a good imagination.
You do. You're on fire tonight, man. I don't. You're on fire tonight with all the good ideas. Where are all these good ideas when I need them in other places? That's the real question. Anyway, so of course the music that's playing in this sequence, probably my favorite. This is the music they used during the Operation Pool Toy opening of Toy Story 4. There's a whole the RC bit in Toy Story 4. This is the music that it derived from this sequence right here, where Woody and Jesse, they're about to hop. They do something crazy. They're about to hop out of the kind of the wheel well of the plane. And we have this awesome bit, and Tiki is like a F yeah moment where Woody, he loses his hat in the thick of it, because how can't he? Because these winds are coming by like 80 miles per hour. Well, they're coming by really fast, and his hat blows off. He's dangling from the plane here, and Jesse. Sorry. Basically, the two of them are in a very precarious situation. The hat blows off. Buzz Lightyear catches it mid-stride as he's riding Bullseye at full speeds to match a plane, which by toy scale is huge. Says, what's the use of a cowboy if he doesn't have his hat? Or what's a cowboy without his hat? There's a line. Like, oh, guys, it's the coolest entry line ever. And of course, now we have this awesome thing where we see Woody's finest hour completed. Importantly, Woody kind of this yet another symbol of Woody venturing into the unknown future. Again, the whole unknown. I don't know what's going to happen next. Where Jesse's saying, but we never saw the end of the episode. Like Woody, like the last episode, Jesse. But we never saw the ending. We don't know if we made it. Let's find out. So again, Woody not knowing the answers, what the future holds, like this could be the end for him. But again, he's taking the risk, which again is his arc kind of manifesting itself in a physicalized bit here, which is really cool. So after Jesse saves Woody's bacon, they make a swing for it there. Woody almost falls. Jesse saves him anyway. So then they go with the old pull string. They use the pull string as a lasso, which is awesome. And they're saved. And of course, they have that really unsettling bit where the plane almost gets them on the
yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's just like oh shit, did they actually get saved? Oh my god!
Just that great uneasy bit of like, guys, we're still on a tarmac.
Right.
Let's go home. All right, so the ending.
All right. So yeah, I mean, not a lot to say here. We wrap things up pretty nicely. Jesse and Bullseye are well acquainted to the new home. Some
sparks fly between Jesse and Buzz.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's actually a really nice I totally forgot that was in there.
Beautiful hair full of yarn. Beautiful yarn full of hair. Sad Al. Of course, the idea Al probably my headcanon has always been that Al he was on the plane with the stuff. So the idea is that Al went to Japan. He realized he probably went to I don't know how far he went to the meeting or not. When he went to the museum, he basically unpacked the toys. Whatever stage of the meeting, it did not go well. So he had to go all the way back. He had to make bucks. Again, this one actually is another we don't care where you question, like if it's the next day, how did he record another commercial in the Tri-County, or if he's all the way in Japan? Doesn't matter.
Okay, my bigger question is how did they let that commercial actually air? Because it's clearly he's really upset about something.
Well, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say again right now he might be in some financial straits. We had time to buy the one take, so we only have so much footage. It's the only one we have. Just play it, just run it. Or it could be a going out of business sale. We didn't see the rest of the commercial. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so to me, the ending of Toy Story, Toy Story 2 boils down to two moments. The big singular moment we got to talk about, Buzz and Woody looking upon Andy and the family.
Yeah, sure.
So this is such a beautiful scene. It's basically questioning, and this is what cemented where Toy Story 3 was going, and again ultimately where Toy Story 4 kind of goes as well. This is the huge question, and this is the biggest strength I think Toy Story 2 has in the whole franchise. Where this is where we pose the question of what is next, and it's the uncertain future. Where Woody acknowledges, basically, as I said to the prospector earlier, I can't stop Andy from growing up, but I wouldn't miss it for the world. Like the statement that elated every parent's heart, made every parent cry during the movie. It came out, I'm sure. It's that moment, but again, it's this beautiful moment of acceptance between Buzz and Woody. They're both on the same page, and it's it says, you okay? He says, yeah, I'm okay. It's just, you worried about Andy? He says, I'll be fine. So as he grows up, at least I'll have good old Buzz Lightyear here to keep me company. So I'm proud of you, cowboy. It's yes, it's the most uplifting moment of their friendship you ever darn see. And of course, I'll have Buzz Lightyear keep me company to infinity and beyond. And you'll notice in each Toy Story movie, there is a moment where Woody and Buzz kind of share to infinity and beyond.
Yeah.
And
of course, Dragon, the ending of Toy Story 4 kind of makes this moment even more prominent because it's just they're not always going to be together.
True, but again, that to infinity and beyond, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. Again, Dragon, I go back to the whole Bonnie will be fine, but what about you, Buzz?
I keep thinking about that now when I rewatch the movie. Because, oh god.
Are you
Anyway.
gonna be fine, Buzz?
Oh, it is. But seriously, isn't this just such a great? It's such a hopeful moment, isn't it? It's like there's nothing.
Totally.
The most hopeful ending you've ever seen here. Where then, of course, like we have Robert Goulet singing as wheezy as sounding exactly Robert Goulet, pulling on Mikey from Recess, literally.
Theme so iconic that they made an animatronic out of it.
Yep. And by the way, this is my favorite rendition of "You've Got a Friend in Me." By the way.
It's a contender. I think my favorite rendition is actually the Spanish one.
It's good. It's good. They're all you can't miss.
Yeah,
So we end on an extremely hopeful note. You know, we have Woody and Bo Peep. We have Buzz and Jesse, and they're all kind of.
Would you say this is maybe like an early predecessor to like the dance party ending in animated movies?
Well, at the very least, they're not really dancing, but then Wheezy's.
They're kind of dancing. The Barbies are dancing.
You're right. There are they're also kind of backup singers. So the point being, they're okay. Fine. It's vaguely a dance party ending.
I'm just saying, like it's a more classy, less in your face dance party, but still,
or like ending on a wedding song. It's kind of like what if you want to look at it. There, sure, I'll go with fine. It's a dancing ending. All right, fine.
all right.
However, beat Shrek. I'll give it that. It's a classy one that beat Shrek when they did their dance party opening. So maybe you're on something.
It did.
But seriously, it's like a 1/1000th of hopeful note you kind of end on. It's like, oh my god, we got Goulet, we have happiness, we have like optimism in the face of an uncertain future, and your kids growing up. It's like, how much better could it get? And that's fantastic.
All right, yeah. Like I said, I very, very much enjoyed revisiting this one because, as I said, just through weird circumstances, no fault of the movie itself at all. This is the one that I went back to the least out of the three in the original trilogy. And I gotta say, this one packs just as much, if not more, substance into it as any of the other ones. So yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, Dragon, give us an outro here.
Well, Toy Story 2, it many times I feel it gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, especially where we're at now. And again, it's like no fault of its own. It's just we keep getting better and better, and we have like 4 really excellent movies to pick from here. You can't miss any one of them. Any of them, Robin, you can't miss. Sorry, the old Super Friends reference.
Oh God! Wow, I bet that was a deep pool.
You have no idea.
Nerd.
You don't know how deep that pool is. That's a
oh God!
Dude, that's a pool. That's an Inception pool right there.
Oh man!
I'm sorry. In terms of like you pool within a pool, it doesn't.
Oh dear! So God!
Let me reframe. Let me reframe things here. Get all nice and proper. So, Toy Story 2 kind of gets lost in the shuffle sometimes, and it's the one that made Pixar. Basically, it's the one that made Pixar in demand. Maybe you have the first movie, you have the second product syndrome with Bug's Life, and that's like we're going to see if they can still make it and kind of do a different concept. And then they come back and they take a big risk. Like, let's come back for the sequel, man. It's a sequel that, again, like this thing. Sometimes the greatest struggles, per your Jaws example, sometimes the greatest struggles give us some of the greatest art, and I feel that's what Toy Story 2 is, man. It really is. Where again, there's so much struggle in making this, but still, again, like struggle in the sense of wound the clock down to the very last second. Like you can see every ounce of hard work, sweat, and tears in this movie, and that it feels so seamless and feels so strong, and it holds up so well to scrutiny. It does. This movie were the first steps into the next level for storytelling and character growth that Pixar did. This is where it all. I would mark it. This is where it all begins. I'm not saying Toy Story doesn't do that, and Bug's Life as well. Bug's Life is more. It's definitely more of a comedy, mind you, but still, it's like we're getting there. It's like Bug's Life is kind of like we're buying the shoes for the walk that is Toy Story 2. Like we're going on the grand adventure. We'll and I will always adore this movie, and nostalgically, again, it's between the first Toy Story and this one, I'll have the most nostalgic connections to. And again, this movie is just it's a rare comparison. I think it should be used utmost sparingly, so rarely is it true. Again, this is kind of the Godfather Part 2 of animation.
Godfather Part 2.
Godfather Part 2.
Monkey coming in at the last minute saying, just throwing it out there, that airport scene.
It's true. The airport scene is quite fantastic.
All right, folks. Well, we hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. don't forget to come back for your second helping of Thanksgiving tomorrow night, where we break down A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I keep wanting to call it Won't You Be My Neighbor. I will never not want to call it Won't You Be My
Well, to
Neighbor.
be fair, it is the other half of the song, though, technically.
That's what I'm saying. So, also, Dragon, there's a whole Mandela effect about the whole like beautiful day in the neighborhood, or a beautiful day in this neighborhood.
Oh, I know you're talking. The whole
Be
this
in
and
this,
yeah.
yeah,
I've heard it both ways. I gotta be honest. I've heard. You gotta remember, he did sing that song every time. He may have changed it up now and again.
What now?
It's entirely possible, because remember, he sang that song live every time they did that. It wasn't like a stock opening. He could have shifted it a little now and again.
That's true. I think that's probably the best. No, screw that, Dragon. It's proof of alternate realities.
Sure.
All right. Anyways, okay. So yeah, we'll be breaking that down. Very excited for that. And yeah. All right. In the meantime, have a good night, folks, and be good to each other. Be good to each other. Have a good Thanksgiving.
You've got a friend in me. Da, 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 da.